English newspaper, the Taipei Times, and this is from a week ago, Sunday. Actually, it's last Sunday's paper. If you open it, you'll see, I'm going to just pull this out. You see the top article in the Taipei Times? So this is not the China Post. This, of course, is the other, one of the other. There are 3 English newspapers in Taiwan. There is the China Post, there is the Taipei Times, there's also the Taiwan News. Okay? So it says, failure to yield cause of accidents. So, 蛮多的车业, how do you say it? Is it 车业? I want to say traffic accidents happen in Taiwan, happen everywhere, because people, are you Jennifer? Okay, good, Jennifer. Good to see you again. Happen because people don't follow the rules for driving. They don't run. They turn in front of someone and then they get hit, right? That's what happens. So this word yield, right here, Y-I-E-L-D, caught my eye. So then I talk about other uses of the word yield in English. Okay. Now we need to move on. Before we look at the 2 columns I gave you for our discussion today, I'd like to take you just briefly to the China Post so you can see something if you do want to see this. I don't know. I hope you do. Okay, now you see, if you put my name into Google, you have Daniel Bauer. 我中文的姓是鲍鱼的鲍，鲍神父，在英文是鲍鱼的鲍。But my surname is Bauer, which originally comes from German. 是个农夫 is a farmer. My great-grandfather most probably was a farmer in Germany. And then my great-grandfather, as a 5-year-old boy, immigrated with his family, my great-grandparents, to the United States from Germany. So that's why I have a German last name. Okay, fine. So if you look, if you see this, you have to type commentary, because it's on the commentary page. This isn't clicking in, is it? I wonder why. Shall I do it here? We'll just be patient, see if anything will happen. Anyway, good. I wanted to show you kind of what I do. Okay, very good. Oh no. Just a second. Okay, that's not my work. Okay, that's just commentary. Let's go back. That's because I punched the other thing. Let's stay with my name and see what we turn up. Okay, good. East and West equal. Okay, looking at the history, that's mine. Letting the readers have their say. These are all mine. Prison suicides in Kaohsiung hover like dark clouds. So these are the last 4 weeks, the last 4 Sundays of columns. So this is the one on Sunday that I just showed you. Let's look at this for a moment. Letting the readers have their say. So I'll just read this at the top, okay? Readers' responses to my columns are interesting to me and are always a push for deeper reflection. So every time I see something that a reader may say as a response to a column, I don't get many opinions from readers. They don't come to me. But sometimes readers will go to the China Post on the website, and at the bottom of the column they will check and they will offer a response. And I very much am interested in that response. It's public, for one thing, and sometimes I have to defend myself, okay? Doesn't happen very often, but sometimes. So this column takes about 5 readers' responses to different columns that I have written over the last few months, okay? That's what it's about, okay? But I'm grateful for the words several critics 要批评我 ，OK， 读者批评我专栏，从几个月以前一直到目前为止。Okay, several critics have recently posted under my name in the commentary section of China Post. I want to share some of those words here today. Okay, so the previous week I had written about the Kaohsiung prison problem, where those 6 prisoners tried to take hostages and then escape, and then they failed, and then according to the reports, they committed suicide, Sishala, all 6, as you already know. So I wrote about that a month ago, it's about 5-6 weeks ago, and one reader was very, very sarcastic about what I said. So I quote what the reader said. This reader put this at the bottom of the column there on the Wanlu, and so I responded to him. If you're interested, you can read this column. You can just go and see what I say about that. Okay, so anyway, that gives you an idea of that particular week. Let's go down just for a moment, show you some other topics. We could all be Brian Williams. I don't know if you know who Brian Williams is. Some of my readers are Americans in Taiwan, and they know Brian Williams. He's a famous news voice on TV news. He's a newscaster. And he exaggerated some news events that involved him. 他有一点夸奖，有一点吹牛的。这是4年、3、5年以前，非常不好意思。And therefore he lost his job for 6 months. His news company, the TV news, let him go for half a year. He makes $10 million a year for his salary. And so he's losing $5 million American dollars of salary. And whether they'll hire him back as the top newscaster, no one really knows. But I talk about all of us sometimes chwei-neoing and acting as if we accomplish certain things that really we do not accomplish. So that's why I call this, we could all be Brian Williams, okay? We had the airplane crash, 5年之前或是以后，我忘记了之前，所以那个飞机掉下来很糟糕，对不对？50几位过世了。So I talked that week about flight attendants, these men and women who work on airplanes helping us, how important they are. And of course you probably remember one of the attendants, she's one of the few people who lives after that accident, after the plane crash. This is the second time that she was almost involved with dying with airline service. The first time was in Pindong, or wherever it was, back about a year and a half ago. She was supposed to be on an airplane. She changed her work schedule, something came up, got another young woman to take her place, and that plane crashed, okay, and a lot of people were killed. She was supposed to be on that plane, and now she was on this plane, and she's one of the few who survived. So I used her situation, and I talked about, Hong Kong, flight attendants in general, with how important they are with their training and their work for the public, Okay. So anyway, Mayor Ge Shichang, Ko-Wen-Che, Taipei, I had 2 columns on him recently. So anyway, I think enough on that. This will give you, thank you so much. Now, I don't really need this anymore. If one of you want to turn it off, you can turn it off. Whatever is easy for you. I'm going to take my jacket off because, as often happens, I'm heating up. Yeah, you can turn it off. Thank you so much. Okay, now again, you have paper in front of you, and you can write down anything you want, any comments you have, any questions you may have. Please write it down on those small pieces of paper. Does everyone have paper? I have more here we can cut up into small pieces. Okay? Make sure that you have a piece of paper. And again, here, would you like to? You're going to, you go ahead. Why don't you just tear a piece off, okay? So again, do give me your email address because it's possible that I won't have time to answer your question or meet your opinion now today, but I will try. Well, you want one of these? Okay, here you go. You're welcome. Okay, sure. Okay, so what I did so far was I showed you what the column looks like in the newspaper. Okay, so you see it here in a real newspaper from a week ago on Sunday. But now, what you have in your hands is simply a Xerox copy, right, of that, well, one of the columns that recently I wrote. Now, if we look at the literature one first, literature and English exams, part 2. This is what I'd like to talk with you about in the beginning here. Now, I'm sorry, by the way, I did not get these to you a week ago or even 2 weeks ago. This is my fault. I did not get it done early enough. And that means that most of you have not read this. I believe that. Okay, so we have to kind of work with the text, T-E-X-T, with the manuscript here. We kind of have to work with it now together on the spot, as we say. So on the spot means just right at this moment. This is on the spot. We have to do our best to understand the English here and the content and everything else. Okay, now I don't want to go so fast that I take away the fun that maybe we can have. I hope we can enjoy this process. Let me tell you about part 1. You notice part 2 here. It says the Literature and English Exams, part 2. Why is it part 2? Well, it's part 2, and then you can go to the Wan Lu and find this if you want. You just look up my name, Daniel Bauer, in China Post, and you have to write down commentary, C-O-M-M-E-N-T-A-R-Y, C-O-M-M-E-N-T-A-R-Y, commentary. Commentary will bring you to that page you just saw, and all of the recent columns are there, okay? All right, fine. So a week earlier, I had part 1. And let me tell you the background on that, okay? I've been teaching literature at Fuda for, this is my 30th year. Grace said over 30 years. Actually, she's pretty close. It's 30 years now. So next year, it will be 31 years, okay? But now I'm in my 30th year. And I have noticed in the past 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, a difference in my literature exams. The students are having a harder and harder time. The grades are going down. Now, the grades are going down not only in the courses that I have been teaching in literature in English language, whether it's American literature or different kinds of different periods of English literature. If the courses are in English language, and if the literature is in English, and the exams are all in English, which is the way we teach literature and test on it in the English department, both in the day division, Erjianbu, Hayo, Wanchan, Jin Bu. Well then, that's my situation. The English exams that I'm giving on literature in English, the results with the numbers are getting worse and worse every year. So this has been bothering me, you know. I mean, I've been doing everything I could to make sure students, as many as possible, can pass the courses. And one way I've done that is I give them reports, Baogao, that they have to write on the literature. Every student now, for my courses, has to write 2 Baogaos. We call those a journal in the English department. So it's 4 pages long, their own English, their own ideas, not from the Wan Lu. Okay, so each student does 2 journals every semester for every literature course now that I teach. The journals, these Baodaos, count for half of the final grade. Wow. So half of the final grade is in the hands of the students. It's very difficult to fail the course if you work hard on the 2 journals and pass one of the exams. You don't have to get a 90, you don't have to get an 80, you don't even have to get a 75 or even a 70 in those 2 exams. If you get somewhere in the 60s, or if you happen to get in the 70s or 80s on one of the exams, and have 2 good journals, you're going to pass the course. I will make sure that you will. Students who do very poorly on both journals and in the exams run the risk then of failing the course. Well, that's one way I am using to deal with the problem of uncertain results from these exams. Okay, so I thought, well, I don't understand why this is going on. It didn't used to be this way. Why is it happening now? I thought maybe it's my teaching methods, maybe it's the literature is too difficult, although it's the same literature, basically, that I have been teaching and other professors have been teaching for years. So here's what I did. I asked my students what they felt about this. So I gave them paper, like I just gave you, and I said, no names, please. But I wrote 5 or 6 questions on the board about studying literature, American literature. These students in the Diaocha are in 美国文学，在进修英文系，目前是这样。So as you can see from the date, this was 11月23号. So about 4 months ago, we were nearing the 期中考, we were nearing the midterm exam, and they had never had one of my tests. Never. They were all seniors, but I only teach 1 course now in the English department at night. 因为我是兼任的老师，and 白天的时候我也有一点忙，对， so they had never had one of my tests. So this was a good chance to, how do you feel about the exams you have taken in the English department, in the Jinsho group, for the last 3 years? They've all been in English and on literature in the English language. How do you think, what do you think about those exams? You know, one of the questions I asked is, do you feel the grade you get shows how hard you have studied? I said, do you learn anything as you study and as you take these exams? Okay, so is it a learning opportunity for you, or are the exams simply, you know, a kind of a torture or misery that you have to survive? I did ask, do you feel the grades you get are fair? Now that's for the exams, not for the course, because teachers always use other ways like I use to determine what your grades are for a final grade for a course. I'm only talking about the score, the Fenshu for the exams, for the midterm and the final. Are they fair, in your opinion? Now, in addition to those questions, I asked maybe another 1 or 2 questions. I can't remember now what they were. And then I said, in addition to this, do you want to say anything to me? Want to ask me any questions? Just write down your question, write down your opinion, whatever you have, ideas and so on. And I said,